All right, so today we're going to look at our last section in unit or chapter 2, whatever you want to call it. So these are going to be notes 2.4, and we're not going to call it factoring continued, all right? We're actually solving equations again. Solving quadratic equations by factoring. So that's the factoring part. Solving quadratic equations by factoring. Okay? All right, and there are specific steps that we are going to have to follow. Okay? Step 1, all right, is that the quadratic equation must equal 0 first. Quadratic equation must equal 0 first. Okay? Now, what on earth is a quadratic equation? Well, you probably didn't realize it because we didn't refer to it as that. But you remember when we said we were factoring things that were like ax squared plus bx plus c? You remember us saying that, like, that's the form of some things that we were factoring? Okay? That's actually a quadratic equation. All right? So if we set that equal to 0, that means we have set the quadratic equation equal to 0. All right, quadratic literally, like, that's the name of any function that x squared is the highest power. Okay, so that's the fancy name for an x squared problem. All right, so that's a quadratic equation. All right, so again, first step, it must equal 0. Okay, so if it doesn't equal 0, then we have to use some sort of algebra by adding and subtracting things to make it equal 0. All right, once it equals 0, step 2 is to factor completely. Okay, and then remember that means don't forget to look for the GCF first. Don't forget GCF. Okay, that is part of factoring. Okay? All right, once you have factored, all right, the solving part, the rest of it's pretty easy. You set each factor equal to 0. Set each factor equal to 0. And the last step, solve each new equation. All right, so the directions will just say solve. All right, and so for my first problem, I'm going to actually already give you the factors. Okay? So this is a quadratic equation because if I FOILed it together, my highest power would be x squared. But I've kind of made the first one easier in terms of it's already equal to 0, and it's already factored for you. So we can jump all the way down to step 3, which said what? What was step 3 that we just wrote down?
Set each factor to 0.
Good. Set each factor equal to 0. So each factor means the things that are connected by multiplication. So I'm going to set 2 minus x equal to 0 and 3x plus 5 equal to 0. And then I'm just going to use my algebra skills that we all have, okay? And this skill is something we are masters of, getting x by itself. Okay, so get x by itself in each one, please. All right, what'd you guys get for the first one? Positive 2. Okay, there's a couple different ways to go about it. The quickest way would be to add the x to the right, But if I didn't do that, I'd have to subtract the 2 to the left and then divide out the negative. Okay, so don't lose your negative on that. It does become a positive 2. And the second one becomes x equals negative 5 divided by 3. Minus 5 divided by 3. Are we okay with that? Okay, so let's bump it up a notch. All right, this one I'm not factoring for you. All right, but I am making sure it's already equal to 0. So step 1 is done. It already equals 0. Now, how do you factor something like that? What do you always look for first? GCF. Thank you. Does this one have a GCF? Yes, it does. What is it? 2x. 2x. All right, 2x. And then x minus 4 is left over. Okay? Is it factored completely? Can I do anything else to factor this thing? No, good. So I'm done factoring. All right? Now, I've got 2 factors. Make sure you understand. The one in front of the parentheses is a factor, and the one inside parentheses is a factor. 2 factors. So I have to set each factor equal to 0 and solve. How do I solve that first one? How do I get rid of that 2? Just divide, but what's 0 divided by 2? 0. All right, and then the second one, x equals 4. We good on that? Questions? All right, let's bump it up a notch. Maybe. All right, 5x squared plus 20 equals 0. All right, it is quadratic because it has an x squared in it. It is quadratic. It's not a trinomial, though, just like the last one wasn't a trinomial. We have a GCF. English, what is it? Very good. So we take out a 5, and then we have x squared plus 4. Set of dots. We do have to check for that, but what it has to be what? Subtraction, and it's not, okay? So, so I'm done factoring. I can't factor anymore, all right? And I have 2 factors, a 5 and an x squared plus 4, all right? Now, when I set each one equal to 0, okay, does 5 even have an x in it? No, it does not. So can I solve for x? No, I cannot. Is 5 equal to 0? No, it is not. So that just means that doesn't give me a solution. Okay? Now, the other one did not factor. And we haven't talked about square roots. Okay? I guess technically you could get x squared by itself and take the square root. But that would give you the square root of a negative. So we're not even getting into that. If it doesn't factor, if it's prime, it doesn't factor, then right now we're going to say that has no solution. Because we haven't gotten into the square roots of negative numbers yet. That's later. That is an Algebra 2 topic, but that's later. Okay, so if it doesn't factor, it's prime, then I can't solve for x. Okay? Questions? All right. Now, let's pull in some trinomials here. Start with what I would consider the easy ones. X squared minus 12x minus 28 equals 0. Okay? And step 1 is to make sure it's equal to 0. Are we good with that? It's already done. Step 2 is to factor. Is there a GCF here? Nope. And this is a trinomial with a 1 in front, or you can say no number in front. So we should be able to what I call normal unfold. And this is the kind of stuff you had on your quiz. All right, what's going to go in the front of each parenthesis? That's the easy part. And now I need to find a pair that multiplies to be negative 28 and adds up to be negative 12. All right, well, let's just think about 28. 1 times 28, 2 times 14, and 4 times 7. If I make one of those numbers negative, will any of those pairs add up to be negative 12? 14 and 2. Which one needs to be negative to get a negative 12? The 14. Okay? So we need a minus 14 and a plus 2. All right, take a second, set each factor equal to 0 and solve, please. Now, I will tell you, if you can just look at the factor and know what you're going to get when you solve for x, you can go straight to the answer if you want. Okay? Like in terms of work, you're okay skipping this step if you know that the answer will be x equals 14. Okay? So what's the other one? Negative 2. X equals negative 2. And on Alex, it just has you putting in the numbers connected by a comma. So you wouldn't even put in the x equals part. You would just do 14 comma negative 2. All right, questions on that? All right, next problem. Something a little different. Something slightly different. What's different? Good, thank you, Alish. It's not equal to 0. So we have to make it equal to 0 first. Well, that means we need to put everything on the same side, okay? And I will tell you now that you want to make sure that whatever side you put your stuff on, your x squared stays positive, because it is much, much harder to factor when x squared is negative, okay? So the easiest way to get everything on the same side is to move which piece? The negative 3x. And how do I move it? Since I want to pick the whole thing up and bring it to the other side. Do I add it or do I divide? Add it. Very good. If I divide it, I'd only be getting rid of the negative 3. I want to get rid of the whole thing. So I'm going to add 3x. And then when I write down my quadratic equation equal to 0, I need to make sure that I put it in the proper order. Okay? So remember we talked about quadratic equations had the x squared term first, then the x term in the middle, and then the constant at the end. It has to go in that order. All right? So that's going to be x squared plus 3x minus 18. Now, please take a minute and factor that. All right. Ferris, what did you get for your two factors?
X minus 14.
In number
Well,
5?
No, in 5, x plus 6 and x minus 3.
Okay, you had me worried there for a second. All right, x plus 6 and x minus 3. Very, very good. All right, so when you set each one equal to 0, Brooke, what was one of your answers? X equals? Good. And Chance, what's the other one? Positive 3. Very good. All right, any questions on how I got those? All right, let's pick it up a notch. Not really. Won't be much. All right, 4x squared plus 4x equals 8. Grady, what's my first step going to be? Get everything on the same side. And what am I going to do with that 8? Subtract it. And then just make sure we put it in the proper order. That 8 is actually going to go last because it doesn't have an x. All right, Kevin, do you think this thing has a GCF? Yep, what is it? 4. Very good. So don't forget, we're always looking for that GCF first. All right? And then see if you guys can finish up factoring that one. Mason, are you done factoring? All right, what'd you get for your stuff in parentheses? All right, you're so close. All right, you are right. The pair is 2 and 1, but I have to add up to be a positive 1. So the bigger number is going to need to go with the plus. You are so close. All right, so now keep in mind that is 3 factors. 3 factors. 4 is a factor, and then x minus 1 and x plus 2. All right, but when you set 4 equal to 0, is there an x to solve for? No, so you just cross it out. That does not give you a solution, okay? It's the only the ones with variables give you a solution, okay? So, Keith, what did you get for one of your solutions? Positive 1, and Jamie, what did you get for the other one?
-2.
Very good, okay? Any questions? Hey, any idea how I might be able to check my solutions? How can I check to see if my solutions are correct?
Plug it in.
Yeah, plug them in for x, one at a time, into the original. And like, so for number 6, I would want to make sure I get 8 equals 8. Okay? For number 5, I would need to plug in -6 on both sides and just make sure they're equal. Okay? Questions on that? All right, let's bump it up another notch because there's one major type of factoring we have not reviewed. All right, 6p squared plus 15p plus 9 equals 0. So I'll already make it equal to 0 for you. Is there a GCF? Yes, there is. Ailish, what is it? 3. Very good. So if I take out a 3, I'm still left with a trinomial that has a number in front. I still have a trinomial with a number in front, which means I need what method of factoring? Yeah, well, yes, in a minute. We'll get to grouping in a minute. It's the second half. Remember what we call the first half? It's 2 letters. Good. The AC method. The AC method. That's where you literally take the A times the C number, and then you set it up so you can group it. Okay? So A times C is 6. So I need a pair that multiplies to be 6 and adds to be the middle number, which is 5. What multiplies to be positive 6 and adds to be positive 5. All right? Now, if they both have to be positive or they both have to be negative, will that add to be 5? 6 and 1. No, that'll add to be 7. So what's my other pair? 2 times 3. Okay? Very good, very good. All right, so yes, this is where we set up grouping. All right, that 3 is just going to keep on coming down. That's not part of the AC method. So we keep the first term the same. We We keep the last term the same. And we turn the middle into our new pair. They're both positive, and they both need a p. And then you factor by grouping. All right? So when you're done, 3 will just be one of the factors in front of your other two factors. All right? See if you can remember how to factor by grouping and finish that one up. And here's my hint. Cut it in half. All right. Gavin, what was the GCF in the first two? What? 2p. Very good. Thank you. All right. And so, Chance, what was left over when you took out a 2p?
Just the.
Out of these two. What was left?
Well, I did it the opposite way. So
Oh, okay. So, but what's in what? So,
it's just p plus 1.
very good. Okay. And then, Grady, what's the GCF in the other two? Positive 3, and what would you be left with? P plus 1. Very good. Okay. So even if you did it in a different order, we should still have the parentheses the same down here. So Caitlin, what's in one of your parentheses? At the end. P plus 1. Very good. It doesn't matter if it's in the first one or the second one. What's in your other one? 2p plus 3. All right. Are we okay with that? And then that 3, make sure that factor comes all the way down. Okay? So we have completely factored. Now you need to set each factor equal to 0 and solve for p. Set each factor equal to 0 and solve for p. If it doesn't have a p, it doesn't give you a solution. All right. So even though I have 3 factors, how many solutions do I have? 2. Janie, what's one of them? Very good. And Brooke, what's the other one? Excellent. Minus 3 divided by 2. Very, very good. Okay, negative 3 over 2. Anybody need to see anything else? All right. Okay. We're going to take a quick break while this video ends because there's one more little part, but I don't want to